Hi everyone, we're super excited to be here with you today. We are going to be chatting very soon with Yvonne Armenta, who is our public speaking expert. We'll be chatting with her about why it's important for Latina entrepreneurs to really care about public speaking as they're operating their business. And so I'm trying to get Yvonne on right now. I see you there, Yvonne, but I can't get you on for some reason. Can you send a request? Maybe that'll work. Hi everybody. Let's see, let's try to get Yvonne. There we go. Getting on now. We're just gonna wait a few seconds. IG Live, sometimes a little funny. There you are.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. It's good to see you. I know the whole IG Live thing can get a little, you're like, I have people live.
Right? And I was trying to push the button earlier and it was just, I was staring at myself for a long time and I didn't see anything happen. I'm like, am I not pressing the right button? What's happening?
Takes a little bit. It takes a little while. How are you?
It really does. I'm good. How are you doing?
Good.
That's
I'm
great.
excited for our chat today.
Me too. Thank you so much for partnering with us and just agreeing to do this conversation. I think it's really important. I think it's something that a topic we often don't really think about either. We don't put much thought to it, specifically as Latina women, Latina entrepreneurs who are trying to get their business going. You know, public speaking isn't always kind of on the top of mind.
Yeah, and that's my mission, to get it top of mind, because I really do feel like it can permeate the rest of your, it permeates throughout your entire life and can make a lot of different aspects of your being just that much better.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Before we get started into kind of deep dive into the conversation, tell us a little bit about you. Like, how did you get started with what you're doing? Tell us who Yvonne is. We want to know a little bit about you first.
Yeah, of course. My name, as you already know, is Yvonne. I'm originally from San Francisco, California. So born and raised in the Bay Area, and I've been here pretty much I have been here my entire life. I went to school at UC Berkeley, and then I'm about to finish my master's in business. But the way that I started with public speaking, really, if I think about it and you sit down and reflect, was when I was in elementary. I would host all of our talent shows, a lot of, cultura events. I would be the host of it, and I would translate what my partner in English was saying to the Spanish version. Don't ask me if I can host in Spanish now, but I'll try. I'll do my best. And then right after that, I actually went to a high school that required us to do presentations in order to pass on to the next grade. And so that re-instilled in me, oh yeah, I really like public speaking. This is something that I love doing. And if I practice it enough, I can be really good at it. And so then from there, they followed my journey. My presentation was filmed by the Teaching Channel, in the Bay Area. And so they followed my journey throughout college. And I went on to be a keynote speaker at a couple different conferences centered around education. And I realized then that, and now I'm in internal communications, and I realized just how scared we often are at public speaking and presenting. It's a big deal for a lot of people. If someone asks me, hey, Yvonne, can you give me a presentation on this? Can you talk to me about this? I'm happy to. And that's just not the reality for a lot of people. So my journey really is in trying to get people to be at a place with public speaking where they see the benefits, they're not afraid to do it, and they can just really openly express who they are through the spoken word.
That's awesome. And I know there's a lot. I've been following you on social media for a while, so I know there's so many tips that you leave with your videos, with your posts, and so I know we'll get into some of those strategies and tips. But let's kind of start talking about the Porque, right? Like, ¿por qué? ¿Por qué vale la pena? Like, why are we even going to talk about this? Specifically for those women that may be listening either right now or live with us, or maybe looking at the recording later. Like, why is it important? Like you alluded to it a little bit, but elaborate a little bit more, like specifically for Latinas in business, those that have their own business. Like, why is it even important for that to be a skill set that you try to cultivate?
Yeah, well, the reason it's important, one, is because generally we're just not comfortable with it, right? And historically we may have been taught to just only speak when you're spoken to, and you know, you're learning about this, you don't necessarily have the space at the table to openly express yourself and talk about the things that you are knowledgeable about. And so the process of speaking up and public speaking has been one of unlearning, right? I mean, it's been like that for me, and it is like that for a lot of people. I always say that oftentimes in its traditional form, public speaking asks us to deviate a little bit from who we are. And I believe that actually public speaking can be that vessel towards being a little bit more of who we are. And specifically for Latina entrepreneurs, you know, you're already doing things in such a different way. You know, if you're in business, you're already having to do things in your own way, or maybe you can't do things in your own way, but you want to find the way to do it how you want to do it. As entrepreneurs, you know, you are bringing to the table an experience, a platform, a service that isn't yet offered. And because of that, it can be an incredible idea and something that you're really, really passionate about. But if you don't know how to talk about it, then no one else will jump on board, right? There's this thing that says people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it, right? And so our why is super important there. And you can't necessarily show people your why. You can show them a service, you can show them you know, something tangible, but you can't show them your why. And so public speaking really goes into that why, and it allows you to create a story and a narrative about why you do what you do, and why in this moment.
And what would you say to the mujeres out there, the chicas out there that are, you know, they're so passionate, they're so creative, they love what they do it so well, and you know, sometimes it's that lack of confidence, they're shy, sometimes even shame, right? We carry some shame with us about, you know, what we've been through, and so all of that sometimes plays a role into how we show up. And so what kind of advice or maybe thoughts would you have to offer to those women that are kind of really struggling with that want to get there, they're just not there? Like, what would kind of, you know, help them out?
What I will say is that it's like this, right? It's a roller coaster, because there's some days where you wake up incredibly confident in what you do, and then other days you're like, should it be me doing this? Why is it me doing this? Why me and not the other person, right? And so that we just have to accept that that's just the way that we'll likely feel from time to time. But what we can do is, I like to think about the things that bring me joy, right? And so I love going on walks, or I like drinking a cup of coffee out of a mug with a cheesy quote, right? Things like that bring me joy. And they bring me joy because they bring me comfort. And so what I say is, think about those things. Think about your business, right? That brings you joy. It brings you incredible joy to be doing what you do every day, right? And hone in on that. Try to replicate the joy that you feel for the simple things, like me, like grabbing a limon from my tree, right? Oh my gosh, that brings me joy, right? How can I replicate something like that, the feelings that I get, the comfort that I get from that, into public speaking? And then create your narrative, right? You know, we all have a story. And so sometimes we get so caught up on, I don't want to overemphasize my story. I don't want to overdo it with that. Maybe there's a little bit of shame, but actually it's a little bit more of, I've been told, you know, no, I don't want this to be what people see of me immediately. You know, lead with that. Again, people want to see your why. And so if it means writing it down, if it means every day practicing, right? I have little note cards that I, sometimes occasionally when I'm feeling like, wow, I really need to practice or something, I'll pull it has random words, things like coffee, things like trees, all of that, my dog. And so I'll pull those things out, and then I'll practice in that way. Think about your business, create note cards for your business, you know, whatever it is, pull a card out every once in a while and talk about that thing that your business provides. And you'll start to see that practice doesn't make perfect, but it makes confidence.
I love that. And, you know, I think too, it's like, you know, people are already supporting what you do with your business, right? People want to see you succeed. There's that community, the tribe that you have, the network that you have, your family. And of course, there's always going to be people that maybe aren't supportive, but most of the time people are supportive. And so they already believe what you do. And so now it's like, let's figure out how to communicate that through words, right? Like you say.
Exactly.
I love
that. I don't know if you've heard, you know, people say you have to get out of your own way. And I actually think that there's a step prior to that, right? Is you have to get up in your face and like talk to yourself and be like, okay, yes, this, and that. And then you can get out of your own way, right? Like sometimes we need that that's part of self-reflection. And a lot of what I say for getting good at public speaking is to reflect, connect, and share. You reflect with yourself, take some time to think about everything that is around you, connect the dots. Where do those connections exist? Connect with the people that brought you to this place, connect with the, the very things that are at the core of what your business are, and then share those with people, because that's what people want to hear about.
Yes, exactly. So what would you say, like, if you could give some like tips or, like real concrete kind of nuggets that folks could walk away with, write down their, bullet points on, okay, if I'm going to start today, what should I do first, or what can I do to prepare myself to kind of get that speech together, or get that message across about my product or myself, my story, whatever it might be?
The first thing will be to write without limitations, to think without limitations, right? Don't even think about why you're sitting down to write. If I say today to you, hey, go ahead and write me your pitch or write me your story, forget that I said that. Just write down whatever comes to mind, right? Because then you'll start. I did this practice with one of the people that I'm consulting with for public speaking, and she wrote a speech down, and there were a lot of different things in there, a lot of different themes, but the one thing that was actually at the core of her story remained the same throughout all of these different pieces and narratives that she gave me. And so then we were able to pick and say, okay, this is your story. This is what you tell people when you talk to them about your service. So I would say just write everything down. And then once you have an outline, I wouldn't say memorize it, but your stuff, your story, your why, and your service like nobody else does, right? Mm-hmm. And so the idea behind then would be practice, and practice with people. Practice with people that have no idea who you are, and practice with people who love and respect you, right? Because those two things will bring you really different experiences. The one with people that you love may give you real, raw, honest feedback, but they also know you a little bit. And so the people that have no idea who you are will be starting from zero, and you'll have to really capture them even more than those that already do support you. So write things down with no filter, practice with different kinds of people and audiences. And then whenever you get these bursts of inspiration, write them down and act on them. And I always say this, but it really does come down to practicing it, and not practicing it, the 15 minutes before you go on stage or whatever it is, but making it a practice to just talk about things. Because public speaking can be, I stand on a stage in front of people, but it can also very much be just one-on-one conversations. So as often as you can, you're already practicing it. Now try to master it a little bit more. Well, all while being you, still be you.
Yeah, I love that. And so you touched on that, right? Like whether you're in person, whether you're behind a podium, whether you're literally like at a mercado or in an elevator, whatever it might be. But what's like your take on how we're also virtual now? I mean, even just this IG Live, right? This is so beautiful that we're able to meet each other and talk over the screen. But how has that kind of changed? Has it changed kind of public speaking and how we're able to convey our message across the screen through all these Zooms and all these kind of different online tools that we have now?
Oh, it's so hard, right? Like you can no longer kind of hear the person giggling when you make a joke, right? That always, as a speaker, that's like, okay, I'm on the right track. I'm being kind of funny right now, right? You can't hear people. You can't see people if they don't want you to, right? What I do love about the virtual world is it allows people to show up as they are, right? If you're comfortable showing your face and unmuting and engaging, that is a space that is that is helping you be you, right? Sometimes, and for me, I think that public speaking in the virtual world, you can have your notes around, people can't see what's going on, you can be a little bit more comfortable. So it may be easier to start virtually, right? To say, hey, I'm going to give a presentation virtually. The engagement part is the harder part, where you're like, oh, I don't know if people are laughing at what I'm saying or they're not, right? But there are ways that you can find connections in the virtual world too, right? You can, by creating this space where people want to, hear you, but feel comfortable and be like, okay, you know what? I'm going to turn my video on because everyone seems really cool here. Or I'm going to unmute myself, even if it's just to give that one little giggle, right? So there are things that we can do, and that is, with technology, things like Zoom, I'm thinking about Zoom right now, right? But polling, all of that kind of stuff. But really, I guarantee you, when you create this space and leading with your story and who you are, and you sound confident in what you do, and you lead with that why, people will feel comfortable, and having virtual engagement in that way will be a lot easier.
Yeah, definitely. And I love what you said earlier. I think if you can talk a little bit more about like just being authentic, right? I see this in your kind of social media feed too from time to time. It's like be who you are, you know, be authentic in your presentation and your speech, how you talk to people. And again, going back to that, you know, initially what we talked about is sometimes it's a little hard for people, but how can we kind of be more comfortable with being our authentic selves, with appreciating? I think we're in this time right now too where, you know, we're almost called to that. You know, we're called to be yourself. It's okay to be yourself. We love you. We embrace you, you know, but those that maybe still need kind of that encouragement, right, about authenticity, what would you say to those people?
So I'll say that it's difficult, right? Like sometimes I'm in rooms and meetings where I'm the only one of, right? Whether it's age, whether it's gender, you know, whatever it is. And sometimes I'm like, damn, I really don't want to talk right now, right? And on the days when I feel like that, I consciously try to say at least one thing, right? Because when you, once you start, it's sort of, you know, you kind of on the roll, right? But being, again, as I mentioned in the beginning, public speaking sometimes we feel, oh, I need to stand up really straight. I need to just look straight at the camera and not even move my hands. I move my hands a lot. It's how I talk, it's how I tell stories, right? And one of the things that I had to unlearn was that while I love the field of public speaking, and there are incredible tools, you know, that we have available to us as far as the foundations and knowledge of how to be an incredible public speaker, is that I have to also accept that my hand movements and the way I move my body is also communicating something. And it may not be the body language that traditional public speaking tells me to do, right? Or tells me how to stand, or tells me how to move my hands, or how not to move them actually, because I've been told before, don't move your hands, they look very clownish. And that has stayed in my mind. And then I've had to unlearn it, where it's like, well, actually, this is probably just a almost like a cultural personality thing. I feel like we use our hands for a lot of things, right? And so it draws my people in, right? And so I have to always think about my people and what my people need for me in that moment, right? And so it's hard. It's hard to authentically show up as yourself all the time, but it's about making those efforts and about replicating what you feel when you are most joyful in those situations, right? Something simple as, let me wear these socks that make me feel good inside, right? Because it gives me that confidence. And showing up for yourself when you need it, right? You know, in meetings, even if your heart is pounding, I've been in classes and my heart's going like this right before I say something. I can feel myself getting really red. And I notice that it's because I'm afraid of what others may think about my comment, or what others may say about what, you know, what I'm saying. And once I say it, once I do what I need to say, no one says anything. It's like it didn't even happen. Or someone's like, wow, that was an awesome insight, right? Which wouldn't have happened. And those little things build not only your confidence, but allow you to show up as yourself over time.
Yeah, I love that. And I know sometimes it's like we think we're the only ones, right? Like I'm the only one who's nervous, or I'm the only one who doesn't know, or and it's not true, right? We all get that. Even the people that are most experienced, like you feel that at different times. So thank you for like putting that out there and sharing that so openly. So I know we had, you know, we're keeping these little combos short because we know people are, you know, doing 10 million things right now, but we also want to entertain any questions. I do see hi Jeanette, the posters hello in the comments. So it's so good to see everybody. If there's a question or two that pops up as we're kind of closing out, we have some time to entertain that. So please put your question or comment in the chat. But just as we close, you know, just what are some kind of final thoughts or words of wisdom, specifically for Latina entrepreneurs that are, you know, really just passionate about what they do and really doing what they do for their families, for their community, for themselves? Like, what kind of last words of wisdom would you share with those women that are listening to this chat?
I would say anchor yourself in your why, right? And know that public speaking, that engaging with people via your story is exactly what people want to be listening to and what they want to hear from you, right? You are already doing things, and no matter the barriers that are in your way, you're already doing things that probably no one has done before. You're doing it oftentimes for the very first time with little support, with little knowledge about how to even get started, but you're doing it. And so that means if you can get through all of that and you can get your business up and running and you can be a successful entrepreneur, then you can definitely be an incredible public speaker. And the last thing that I'll end with is one of my most favorite affirmations is Ponte Perra. And every time that I'm feeling like I'm in a meeting and I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to say this, I say to myself, Ponte Perra. So find your affirmation and find that one thing that just makes you say to yourself, all right, Yvonne, or, you know, get it going, do it, just Ponte Perra y hazlo.
I love that, Yvonne. Thank you so much. Positive affirmation, so important. Make sure everyone has their own, that they repeat, that they wake up in the morning and share with themselves, and they share with others too. And so I love that. Thank you so much. I don't see any questions in the comments, but I want to encourage everyone to please follow Yvonne, Chats with Yvonne on social. We've tagged her in this post, but we're going to tag her when we post the video as well. So make sure you follow her. She has so many great pieces of advice and videos that she'll share. And so a lot of good stuff to continue. Also know that this is a journey, right? You're not going to just automatically be like, okay, I'm implementing 3 steps and I'm the best public speaker, right?
Nope.
This is something that we work towards every day. And so it's okay, right? It's okay to mess up sometimes. And it's just be forgiving of yourself and love yourself and know that we love you. All the ladies who are listening, all the men, all the community that might be listening. We're here for you. We love you. Thank you so much, Yvonne, for sharing your time. Hopefully we'll get to do this again soon. Have another combo with you.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you so much for having me. And to everybody, yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to send me a direct message. I'm always available to answer any and all of your questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Yvonne. Adelante, everybody. Thank you so much. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.